There is a strange silence that often surrounds the topic of old age. It's not that people are unaware of it, it's that they are uncomfortable with it. Modern society celebrates youth. It glorifies ambition, energy, movement, achievement. The world runs on the fuel of the young. But what happens when the striving ends? What happens after retirement? After the children grow up and leave to build their own lives? After your phone rings less and less, and the holidays grow quieter, and people start talking to you more slowly, as if your thoughts have slowed down? What happens when the world no longer looks to you for answers, no longer expects anything of you? For many people, especially after the age of 70, there is a silent kind of grief that starts to settle in. A quiet, creeping emptiness, not just the loss of physical strength, not just the loss of career or role, but the feeling that the music of life has faded to a hum. The sense that you are no longer part of the main story. Just a footnote, a side character waiting for the final chapter to close. But what if that idea is wrong? What if aging is not the end of the story, but the most profound chapter? What if the problem is not aging, but the way we see it? What if the emptiness that many people feel in old age is not a symptom of age itself, but a symptom of meaning lost? Today, we turn to a man who lived through unimaginable loss and yet emerged with a message of hope. A psychiatrist, a philosopher, a survivor, Viktor Frankl. Let's ask, why does growing old feel empty? And what would Frankl say about it? There's a loneliness that doesn't always come from being alone. You can be surrounded by people, family, neighbors, nurses, even well-meaning strangers, and still feel invisible. Not ignored exactly, but passed by, as if your presence no longer changes anything. In earlier years, your life was filled with motion, children calling your name, co-workers needing your input, friends asking for advice. You were needed. You mattered. Even when it was hard, it was meaningful. But with age, something subtle shifts. People stop asking what you think. They assume you're tired, or fragile, or that your ideas belong to another time. And slowly, that sense of being essential begins to fade. Many older adults describe this experience not as sadness, but as something more hollow. A numbness, a disconnect, a sense that life has kept moving, but you're no longer on the train. It's not just about physical aches. It's about being asked less and overlooked more. It's about birthdays feeling quieter, weekdays feeling longer, and purpose feeling distant. The modern world doesn't help either. It moves at a brutal speed. New technologies, trends, phrases, things that feel alienating, not inviting. You turn on the television and wonder when everything started sounding so loud, so fast, and so empty. Culture tells you that aging is a decline, a fall from usefulness, a slow erasure. But what if this emptiness isn't the natural result of aging? What if it's a reflection of a society that has forgotten how to value the soul of the elder? We don't lack meaning in old age because we're old. We lack meaning because we've been disconnected from the sources of it, disconnected from service, from contribution, from the feeling that we still have something to give, something to teach, something to build. And when meaning disappears, something else quickly takes its place: emptiness. Viktor Frankl knew this better than anyone. He believed that humans are not primarily motivated by pleasure or even survival, but by meaning. Without it, we suffer, not only emotionally, but spiritually, even physically. And in old age, when society offers fewer roles, fewer invitations to participate, and fewer spaces that say, "You still matter," the soul begins to starve. Viktor Frankl was not a man who wrote about suffering from a distance. He lived it. He endured one of history's greatest tragedies, the Holocaust, and lost nearly everyone he loved. But what makes Frankl's story extraordinary is not just his survival. It's what he discovered within that suffering. That even in the darkest, cruelest, most inhuman conditions, a person could still find meaning. Frankl noticed that the prisoners who survived the longest weren't the strongest physically. They were the ones who had something to live for, a purpose, a belief, even just a memory of someone they loved. He called this the will to meaning, and he believed it was the core of our human experience. More than pleasure, more than comfort, even more than safety. What we need most is meaning. Frankl wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." Now think about that in the context of aging. What if the emptiness many people feel in old age isn't about age at all, but about losing their why? When your work is done, when your children are grown, when society no longer needs your labor, what's left? If we've been taught to tie our purpose to productivity, to career success, to caregiving, to being the one others depend on, then of course retirement feels like a cliff. Of course silence feels like failure. Of course the quiet house feels like punishment. But Frankl teaches us, your meaning doesn't retire just because you do. Your purpose doesn't grow old because your body does. Meaning is something that can evolve with us. In fact, in old age, it can deepen. You may no longer be able to run a business or raise a family, but you can pass down wisdom. You can reflect on a life lived. You can offer the kind of perspective that only comes from seeing decades of change, love, loss, and growth. Frankl believed that even in a concentration camp, a place where all freedom seemed lost, there remained one freedom that no one could take away. The last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That freedom still belongs to you, at any age, in any condition. You can't always control what happens to your body. You can't undo the past, but you can decide how you see your life, whether it's something fading or something flowering. Frankl reminds us, there is no age limit on meaning. There is no expiration date on the soul. If meaning doesn't end with age, then how do we find it again after so much has changed? Frankl didn't give easy answers. He didn't say, be positive. He didn't suggest fake smiles or hollow affirmations. He spoke of responsibility, of choice, of the power we each have to shape how we face what life gives us. And in later life, we're still called to that responsibility. Meaning doesn't always come in the form of grand plans or dramatic actions. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in the shape of a conversation, a letter, a small act of kindness. Frankl believed there were three main ways people could find meaning in life. 1. Through creative work or contribution. 2. Through love, relationships, and experiences. 3. Through how we face unavoidable suffering. Let's explore what those mean in the later years. 1. Contribution doesn't end. Just because you've retired doesn't mean you've stopped having something to give. You carry decades of insight, mistakes, triumphs, and lessons. That wisdom, your wisdom, is needed more than ever. You can still teach. You can mentor younger people even informally. You can write down your story, share your values, offer perspective. You can help someone avoid a mistake you once made, or inspire someone with a kindness they'll never forget. Contribution isn't always about doing more. Sometimes it's about being more present, more generous, more thoughtful. A quiet legacy can be just as powerful as a loud one. 2. Love still matters. Frankl wrote, "Love goes very far beyond the physical person of the beloved. It finds its deepest meaning in his spiritual being, his inner self. Even if you've lost people, even if you live alone, you still carry love. You can still connect. You can still give it. and receive it. Relationships don't stop mattering. In fact, many people in later life report that it's love, pure, deep, honest love, that gives their final years the most beauty. Call the friend you haven't spoken to in years. Write the letter you've always meant to write. Sit with someone without rushing. Time feels different now. Slower, maybe shorter. That makes every connection even more precious. 3. Suffering can still teach. And yes, there will be pain. There will be grief, perhaps regrets, illness or loss. Frankl didn't deny these, but he offered something radical: that even our suffering can be meaningful if we face it with dignity. He said, "In some way, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning." This doesn't mean we seek out pain, but it means we don't have to be destroyed by it. We can grow. We can forgive. We can make peace. Even in hardship, we are still capable of transformation. Meaning in old age doesn't look like youth. It's not fast. It's not loud. But it's profound. It's in the slowness of reflection, in the courage to remember, in the gentleness to let go, and in the strength to begin again. Yes, even now, you are still becoming. There's a quiet myth in our culture that the final chapter of life is just a slow waiting, waiting for health to fade, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for the end. But that's not a truth. It's just a story we've been told, and you can choose to write a different one. Because the final chapter is not the end of the book, it's the culmination, the part where everything that came before begins to make sense. The part where the threads come together. You have lived, you have hurt, you have loved, you have survived. That is not nothing. That is a life, a singular, irreplaceable, unrepeatable life. And now, you have the chance to make peace with it, make sense of it, and make something of it. Viktor Frankl believed that meaning is not found in the easy parts of life, but in how we respond to the hard parts. And if you're still here, still breathing, still wondering, then your story isn't over. There are still words to write, moments to shape, people to touch. Even if your circle is small, even if your body is slower, even if the world seems too fast, too unfamiliar, you are not done. There is someone who needs your story. There is a memory only you hold, a lesson only you can give, a truth only you can say. Don't let the culture convince you that aging is a disappearance. It is an unveiling, a revealing of what matters most. When the noise fades, when the obligations fall away, when the titles no longer define you, what remains is you, not the role you played, not the things you owned, but the essence of who you are. And that essence is worthy of attention, of reflection, of legacy. So maybe it's not about finding meaning, but remembering it, reclaiming it, living it, even now, especially now, because you are still becoming. And the final chapter? It's yours to write. If this video spoke to you, consider liking it or subscribing to join this quiet journey. Let's keep reflecting, feeling, and remembering together. Until next time, take good care.